We have a detective in our organized crime that's currently doing the work already. They will work jointly. They will continue doing their work here for the city, and over time, while they're kind of split time between you. It's not cool.
Thank you.
Mr. Harris.
So as you said, you used the words as far as the overtime, you said the funding allows. Hopefully it does allow, but do we have available funds to cover the overtime just in case funding doesn't allow?
The funding will be on the federal side. So
Right.
as long as the federal budget has overtime, we will pay it and they will reimburse us. So as long as the federal government's up and running, we will get reimbursed.
All right. Yes.
Mr. Funding.
Chief,
Yes,
I think it's a wonderful thing, and I really need the U.S. Marshals. Would you just possibly confirm maybe that we would be hiring
We,
U.S. Marshals?
yes, ma'am. The United States Marshal Service has offices in Waco, San Diego, Houston, throughout the major cities. We'll be working out of the Waco and San Antonio office. I don't know the exact number, but we will have one officer who is assigned to the Killeen Police Department working with that task force. So even though we may have one officer, we may have the whole field office, 10 to 15 agents at any time working on Killeen cases.
Oh, okay, that's.
It's like a force level.
All right, thank you.
This is awesome.
Mr. Rarick and Mr. Menkes. Mr. Lynn.
It's got a simple question.
Yes,
We got the U.S. Marshals come to our city to work for free in 5 crimes. I hope we get them on here yesterday instead of today. Thank you, sir.
yes,
Appreciate
they're
it.
already here.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Menkes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, is this MOU, is this the first one, or is this reinstating one that we've had in place?
It's a reinstate.
Okay, we've had it,
We have them with the DEA, U.S. Marshals,
and
ATF.
those have been established for many years. Okay.
Okay, anybody else? That's it. Next is RS 18-054, consider memorandum resolution to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Central Texas College Police Department. Mr. Chief Kimball.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. The item before you today is to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Central Texas College Police. CTC Police Department has primary jurisdiction for supplying police services on all its property under their control. The CTC Police Department and the Killeen Police Department desire to have an MOU outlining procedures for mutual aid communications and operations. This agreement includes coordination and responding to major crimes or events, procedures to request aid, daily radio communications, jail procedures, joint investigations, etc. The MOU renews automatically each year up to 5 years. Either party may revise or terminate the MOU in writing. There are no expenditures for entering into this MOU. The staff's recommendation that the City Council approve the MOU with CTC Police Department and authorize the city manager or his designee to execute the agreement.
Any questions? It's an easy one. Thank you, Chief. RS 18-055, consider memorandum resolution dissolving 5 ad hoc council committees. Yes, Mrs. Davis.
All right, council, just last week you adopted your governing standards and expectations. And that document provides that an ad hoc committee will be given a specific temporary task and sunset deadline, and that an ad hoc committee ceases after the specific purpose for which it was created is accomplished or the sunset date arrives, whichever is earlier. And you have 5 ad hoc council committees. You can see them listed there. The solid waste outsourcing and the management audit advisory committees have both concluded their purposes and no longer meet. The remaining 3 meet infrequently and do not have specific temporary tasks or sunset deadlines. You have 2 alternatives. You can dissolve all 5 ad hoc committees, or you can dissolve the solid waste outsourcing and management audit advisory committee since they have clearly completed their tasks. But you can keep the remaining committees and give them specific temporary tasks and sunset deadlines in accordance with the governing standards. Staff's recommendation is that the council dissolve all 5 ad hoc council committees, recognizing that if the need for an ad hoc committee arises in the future, one that could be created at that time, and given a specific temporary purpose and a sunset deadline in accordance with your governing standards and expectations.
All right, any questions? Easy one. All right, thank you. That moves us into public hearing items. PH 18-015, hold a public hearing to consider an ordinance adopting the 2018-2019 annual action plan, describing use of funds and authorizing application for and allocating of community development block grants, or CDBG, and home investment partnership program funds. And this will be the second of two public hearings. Mrs. Hinkle, welcome back.
Good afternoon, council and the mayor. This is the second public hearing for the CPG and home programs for fiscal year 19. So the city does receive the two federal grant programs from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Each program does have national objectives and regulatory requirements. Under the CDBG grant program, there are 3 national objectives that must be met to be considered for the grant funding. And those are: an activity must benefit low and moderate income persons, or the activity must eliminate poverty in the community, or the activity must respond to emergencies such as natural disaster. 15% of the grant can be used to fund public service programs and activities. 65% of the grant can be used to fund housing, public facility improvement projects, and 20% of the grant is allowed for the overall CDBG program administration. The home program only has one national objective, and that is the development of affordable housing. 90% of the grant is used to fund affordable housing, and 10% of the grant and 10% of any program income can be used for program administration. The application cycle began in February with community planning meetings. The applications were made available on February the 26th, and technical workshops for applicants were conducted on February 28th, March 7th, and March 13th. CDAC committee met in May to review all the community priorities, to develop the application criteria, and to hear presentations from the applicants for the FY19 CBG and home program activities. The recommendations from the committee are going to be presented again by Ms. Driver Moultrie. The public hearing schedule allowed for a 30-day comment period. That's going to end on July 10th. And any comments received at the first public hearing are addressed later in the presentation. And after that final public hearing in July, the city will submit the annual action plan to add on August 15th. And I'll let Ms. Moultrie come and do the recommendations.
Mrs. Moultrie.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. If it pleases the council, I'm just going to read the agency and the recommendation. We have been through this one, so for time's sake, if that's okay, and then we'll be free to ask questions afterwards. Community Development Block Grant Public Service Funding Request. Agency, Bring Everyone in the Zone, $12,070.60. Heritage House of Central Texas, $5,000. Communities and Schools of Greater Central Texas, $21,000. Families in Crisis for Client Transportation Services, $2,500. Families in Crisis Homeless Shelter Case Manager, $20,000. Hill Country Community Action Association, $9,490. Greater Killeen Free Clinic, $27,000. City of Killeen Community Development Elderly Transportation Program, $50,000, which brings a total to $147,060.60. Housing, Public Facilities, and Improvement Funding Request. City of Killeen Community Services, Bob Gilmore Senior Center, $574,447.05. City of Killeen Community Development Housing Rehabilitation Program, $87,362, which brings a total to $661,809.05. CDBG Administration Funding Request. City of Killeen Community Development, $196,080.80. Total the same. Home Program Affordable Housing, Bring Everyone in the Zone, $22,762. Heritage House of Central Texas, $12,500. Families in Crisis, $175,000. City of Killeen Community Development Home Buyer Assistance Program, $100,000. City of Killeen Community Development North Killeen Housing Redevelopment Program, $217,915.05. Choto set aside $65,801.70. City of Killeen Community Development Program Administration, $48,849.98, brings the total $642,828.73. Any questions?
Questions, Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Brightway.
Mr. Williams?
Sir?
I was trying to find an email that you sent me about the total renovations. Is this enough to complete all renovations? We need to get more? I'm ready to be done over there.
No, sir.
I'm pretty sure the seniors are too.
And this will just be phase two. First phase, which will cover the ADA compliance for the entrance and the restrooms. Phase two is going to make its way into the kitchen area and not finishes. So we'll have stove, refrigerator, countertops, cabinets. A little bit of a redesign on there. There'll be some flooring that's probably involved in there, probably the lighting. This will just be the second phase. We still got some other ways to go.
Literally, is it like halfway to go? Is there a line at the end?
I definitely think there's a light at the end of the tunnel, especially if we continue with favorable, consideration from CDOT. The next phase would be, and this phase, me and Leslie, we're gonna meet next week and talk more about this, but we're hoping we can get to the front where we do the game room and the entrance and some office realignment, so we can meet and greet the public better. So in a perfect scenario, that will get here, but I don't know if it's, bids have gotta go on, but I'm confident that we will get the kitchen. And then the next phase after that would be that back entertainment room on the right, and it would be the patio enclosure and an open air patio as well, and potentially a connection down to the trail. And then we'll be done.
Well, I hope we get it done soon, then we can free up cash for other organizations, but get more saying bad than these.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Nashke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Leslie?
Ms. Longtree, last week I had, asked why they were not fully funded for this project. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, there are some grants that will assist with following up on this project to complete it.
Well, there were some prior funds, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Hinkle, there were some prior funds that weren't used from another agency that we reprogrammed until they were able to, the Bob Gilmore Senior Center was able to get those funding for this actual fiscal year, if I'm correct.
So the amount that you stated, there are more funds out there to assist with this project other than what you stated? Thank you.
Yes, if you'll remember earlier this year, the Girl Scouts, that project was canceled. So the council recommended that go to the Bob Gilmore Center. So that's $209,000 plus this amount. And so that becomes one project together.
And that's phase two.
Well, that was phase one, this is phase two.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna do it all together.
How many older folks are dying in their house because they don't have air conditioning, central air, leaky roofs, need stuff. And this is just getting too bad when our special interest groups are just
PH 18-016, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance requested by the Bell Toms
But then
Group
again,
Inc.,
we
case number
only have
Z18-10, to rezone lot 1,
just very
lot
few
1,
of us according to
urban
DOJs.
here amended from B5 Business District to
They're just gonna
BC1
push us
General
all
Business and Alcohol Sales District to allow for on-premises alcohol beverage service. The property is located at 2102 Jennifer Drive in Killeen. Mr. McElwain, welcome.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. This case does involve a property owner, the proprietor for Urban Air, which is currently under construction on Jennifer Drive. They're requesting to be allowed to provide on-site alcohol sales. Our understanding is that the property owner is looking at beer and wine, but no mixed beverages for this site. Urban air is essentially a recreation experience. It does allow activities for the children, but of course they require the parents to be there, so I think they're trying to tap into that market while the parents are waiting, the children to have fun. The property at 2102 Jennifer Drive is highlighted in blue. What you see in the surrounding community is commercial pretty much to the east and to the north, and then there are some quadruplexes, fourplexes along the other side of Jennifer Drive. This area is general commercial and City of Killeen map, and the request is consistent with that. The staff notified 17 surrounding property owners within the notification boundary there. We received no responses. It is the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval of this request for BC1 zoning. This is by a vote of 4-0. We did have one commissioner abstain at that time. And I'd like to answer any questions you have about this particular case.
Mr. Rivera.
Is there a school nearby?
Not within a notification, I'm sorry. Not within a TDC guideline boundary. We did check the schools. We obviously knew there are no hospitals and daycares in the area.
I just want to clear that out.
Everybody else good? All right. Next item is PH 18-017, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance requested by the Margaret Dorothy Stefik Marital Trust, case number Z18-11 to rezone lot 17. Block 1, Stefik Trust Edition, Phase 4 from B5, Business District to R2, two-family residential district. The property is addressed at 700 Stefik Drive in Killeen, Texas. Mr. McNamee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, back in 2014, the property owner's petition is to rezone the property from R2 to B5. It was part of a larger zoning request for this area along Stefik Drive. At that time, it was granted, and since then, development has occurred along Slidachek Drive. But now that we've got the residential uses in, what you'll see, and I'll step away for just a second, is this area here is right beside residential uses, and it essentially frames the beginning of the subdivision. So now that we have the residential uses on the ground, the developer is looking at transitioning that to residential. I think it will work better just to have this entire area as residential and then have the lots faced inward as opposed to having commercial use along these residential uses. The intent, of course, is to put it in two-family zoning, which matches the existing two-family that we have along Slidachek. And the area outside of the zoning request, of course, will stay as B5. There's quite a bit of undeveloped commercial property here, and I think he's trying to drive some interest by putting in just additional rooftops. In our review of the case, we thought it made sense to build out this lot, but of course, we are concerned about losing any more commercial property. And I think that the developer is aware of that. We notified 20 surrounding property owners and did receive one protest from Mr. Harry Simon. He's the owner of 601 Slidachek Drive. We received one response of support from Ms. Muriel Haynes. She's the owner of 511 Dolores Drive, which is the street just over to the south. The Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation to you council for approval of the R2 zoning for this site was by a vote of 5-0. And again, the intent is to finish out the residential subdivision, residential uses as opposed to having that position of commercial right here. I'd like to answer any questions you have about this case.
Mr. Kilpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approximately how many dwellings will go into that lot?
We were shown a proposal for 4. We expressed some concerns because of the deep curve and deep curve is actually a corner turn for Slidachek. So I think they're going to retool their efforts pending your decision next Tuesday. If the staff is not comfortable with the access, then they won't have too many lots. We're not gonna have, dangerous, drive openings there to turn the corner on Slide Check.
That would be a major concern, as you look at that, Steffi Drive is more like the artery, wide.
Yes.
And that's almost a high-speed turn, in that curve there. People then coming out, and you're gonna build, dwellings, it will block off both of those viewpoints there as they come up. If we have a high density into that area, is this council concerned?
We are, just to inform the council, we typically look at your driveway spacing anytime we get along that intersection. And that turn there is, we've already expressed a concern about that, so we'll see what they can do, if it's not meeting safety guidelines with regard to, our engineering standards here.
Somebody with a large business could come in and build, or like an amusement park or zoo, something that's going to draw people in.
I would
Oh,
have
I
to right
know.
into an intersection. Well, two intersections really create.
You know that. I was
The
just
reason why I
hoping to
raised that
see,
concern,
I was just hoping to see
any of
exotic
those
animals.
concerns, is once we approve this, we will not see that again. We'll go to the P and Z for plating, they will plat it, and this body will not have a way to overturn what we might think would be
Kilpatrick's talking.
a concern from this body.
Oh my goodness.
Or even individual members from this body wants to get platted as well. I still don't see that plating. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good going, Mr. Kilpatrick.
Sounds really disrespectful, but I placed an item on the city council agenda last year, asking the council would consider taking planning authority back. They both failed by voting 4-3. So this is the fourth time that I've heard that argument. If that's something we need to discuss and we want to take planning authority back, then let's talk about it. Let's take the authority back to planning zone.
Anybody else?
Is there anything in the minutes that indicates why they objected? And what was their reasoning to do that?
You had two responders, one of which was objection. Mr. Harry Simon, I put it in your packet, I'll just read it for you. His concern is that this time there are 3 vacancies in our area. More units will make it harder to rent and cause more car congestion on our streets. Ms. Haynes actually came into the planning office and wrote her support, and this says she favors the rezone. I think she doesn't want to have commercial that close, even though she's a street down, she just would prefer to have residential there.
Yeah, thank you. The reason I asked that is some of the citizens that may want to know why, I read that already, so I just wanted some of the people in the audience to know why those 2 people objected. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else? All right, Mr. McElwain. That moves us back to our DS items. Next item is DS 18-056, City Manager Updates. Wayne Port Hood Regional Airport Air Service Development, and I think you passed all the council members a little pamphlet there prior already, so Mr. Ball.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Council, that packet I gave you contained 3 documents. One was titled Killeen Port Hood Regional Airport Abbreviated Air Service Development. The next one was Staff Airfare Comparison. And there was a document that shows the information by city and fair amount that was used to create the previous document. I'm going to start with the Air Service Development document to highlight some of the goals that the airport is currently focused on. And one is to sustain and or grow existing service with American and United. As you know, Delta's no longer there. The second goal is attract new air service destinations and/or air carriers. It's important to note that staff does communicate with United American often, at least quarterly, to discuss service levels and expectations both ways. And they also attend air service development meetings to try to recruit or at least gain interest in from other airlines in Killeen. One of the major issues we're dealing with for this particular regional airport is the proximity it has with Austin. Austin obviously is the capital, has a high-tech industry, a lot of it. University of Texas is located there, entertainment venues, major entertainment venues. And Killeen, while it's a growing community, it just does not have that kind of industry or venues for entertainment. So perhaps the only thing that we have at this stage that rivals that level would be forfeit itself, but we don't have enough of it. But that is probably the number one issue, because people can literally drive an hour, 20 minutes one way and hop a plane from their perspective at a lower rate, and sometimes that is true. Fuel rates can be lower. With that said, I've asked you to drop down third paragraph from the bottom. It talks about staff over the past several years have met with numerous airlines. I won't mention them all, but you can see that they've met with a lot of them, as well as numerous smaller airlines and charter casino carriers. And in some cases, they've met, as it's shown here, numerous times with those airlines trying to drive interest in Killeen. But the bottom paragraph hopefully will shed some light on some potential that staff, and I'm sure everyone around this table would share interest in. And that is we've applied for a grant. It's called the Small Community Air Service Development Grant. And its purpose is to attract an air carrier for a possible Denver route. The grant has not been awarded, so there's been no announcement to this date. But we are looking forward to hearing whether we are going to receive it or not. And if we do, those discussions will take place, and we'll have a plan to try to bring a carrier on board that will provide that Denver route. The next document I'd like to highlight is the staff airfare comparison. A lot of questions last time we met about what staff are doing to be competitive with the market, or are we even competitive in the market? Well, staff has been for quite some time providing weekly airfare comparisons between Killeen and Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Waco. As it shows on this document, there's 14 markets that compare. They have the same methodology, and that's the 14-day advance fares, including taxes and fees, round trip return in 7 days, and lowest published economy fare. So they use that, and they do these comparisons at the same time each week. And if you notice down about midway, it says the comparison shows Killeen airfares compared to Austin. It shows on one, Killeen lower in 7 of the 14 United Airline markets. Killeen is lower in 5 of the 14 American Airline markets. Killeen is lower in 10 of the 12 Southwest Airline markets. And when compared to Waco, Killeen is lower in 12 of the 14 markets. So that hopefully will give you a better understanding of where we stand. And again, that supporting documentation is on the next page. So if you want to get more specific about the cities and the airfare that was used for this comparison, that's available to you. If you drop down all the way to the bottom of that page, it shows historically regional markets always have higher airfares than hubs or airports classified as medium or large hub airports, for example, Austin. But compared to other small regional airports, our airfares are much lower and competitive. And I think that hold true when you compare Killeen and Waco, or even 12, 14 markets. That's supportive of that assertion. The information is there for you, and if you have any questions, we're happy to answer. We don't have Matt here tonight, but we have Mike Wilson, and we'll try to get the information we can to you.
Mr. Johnson.
Right, because I can hear what you said. You said that airfare comparison for the top destinations, that based on what you get.
Well, the criteria, if you look at that comparison sheet, this is where it says KFHRA staff airfare comparison. Go down about the middle of it, I'm sorry, go over the first 4 bullets, and it explains the methodology used, and they're using specifically 14-day advance fares. They're including all taxes and fees. They're looking at round trip return in 7 days, and the lowest published economy fare, and they actually use the airline website for that comparison. So that should give you some idea of how they got, how they went about collecting this data, and they do it on a weekly basis. Did I answer your question, sir?
We have either one or two problems. Either this is bad data, or either the airport isn't doing a good enough PR job. On hand, they'll get more citizens that continue to fly out of the Austin airport. So just an internal issue, and we can do a better PR job, and that's something we need to do. What I would like to see in the future is that airport aviation staff bring this information directly to citizens, because there is a good discussion. And I would think I travel at least once a month out of the state. I have never, the 7 trips that I've taken this year alone, now the flight cheaper than $200. I go from San Diego to DC.
And I don't know if, and I'm not representing the airport, we can ask Mike, but I don't know if those tickets that you were referring to were purchased further out. Perhaps might have changed that. But one of the things I think about marketing, I think looking at how we distinguish ourselves apart from Austin. There are a lot of good things. It's almost like a private airport out here. It's that nice of an airport. You don't stand in line very long. I mean, there's a lot of advantages we have over others, but what we need to do, as you said, we need to come up with some type of marketing campaign and push that, and this message, let everybody know that it is a value. The question is are we ever going to be able to be at the price level of Austin? Probably not as a regional airport, but perhaps we can sell some of this quality of life as it pertains to airports better than they can. And I don't know the answer to that yet, but Matt and I have had that discussion, and we'll continue to do that, and hopefully it could be beneficial to council perhaps on every so often bring this back to kind of give you an update where we are, where we can in regards to the airfare comparison. And as far as the marketing campaign, I don't have a problem with the city manager making sure that we know very well once we have a better report.
Because if we don't figure something out, then now we're going to continue to do this.
I agree. I think we're heading toward more of a subsidy requirement out of the general fund if something's not done. And we won't need it this year. We won't need it in 2019. Of course, that's what we're working on. But as you look further out, if nothing changes, we are going to have to start with a subsidy because it will not support itself in the capacity it's running.
And citizens don't think they're getting fair rates that are putting in airport, they're not going to fly.
And it's important to also know those rates aren't established by us. Now, I do know that there's sometimes, and it's reflected in this report, where those rates get too high and staff starts in discussions with the airlines, and they've been able to keep the rates lower than some of the area regional airports. So those discussions have been beneficial in the past, but there's got to be a better way moving forward in order to get that value there, and if that's more discussions, more routes, something that others can offer, that might be the way to go.
That'd be good, and hopefully we get a vendor in there, the citizens are wanting to do this.
I hear you.
Mr. Harris.
I was just curious, I don't know if you're able to answer this question, Michael, but in regards to where we are now with the airport, even if we talk about, the parking and so forth, is this something that just came up, or is this something that was recognized like years ago as a potential problem? Because when you look at the basic business operations, a lot of most businesses, they do projections. They look at what will gain them money and what will lose them money. So I guess my question is, was this issue seen like years before? And if it was it ever brought up before now, or is just this year the first time it's actually just been recognized and being brought up at this moment in time?
Are we referring to the parking issue? And that's the next item. It's the next item.
Okay, good. Sorry.
I don't understand. They think that the parking fee is
I can't attest what other did or did not do or know.
but I can say it's highly unlikely that they weren't aware of it. And I think that goes back to the aviation folks. They're well aware of those intentions having a fiscal impact on their operations because years past, and that's why I believe everybody didn't know it, because we had to draw down in our fund balance every year. And when you do that, there's a reason why you do it, and I think that's one of the main drivers for that. My opinion.
So we're, maybe aviation can answer this, but one follow-up question. When I was in, many years ago, we had the airport committee, I don't know if you recall that time. One thing they keep on drilling and drilling, and one good fare also depends on the hub that we're gonna fly into, to see how many seats they have available to make that connection. And also, if I'm not mistaken, there was a specific day during the week that those fares was put out in batch in order to do those type of projects. And one guy says looking for prices, and the entity for travel, I think it's me, the mayor, because we travel quite a bit. But the idea behind this is, this is wonderful. Very wonderful. I just can't find myself. So I wonder when this data was collected, when it means,
Unless you are a large airport like Cincinnati or then,
it's like 14 days in advance. That's what.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was referring to with Councilmember Johnson, that the further out you go, obviously, it's probably gonna be cheaper is my guess, and I don't know that for a fact, but that's the experience I've had. I always try to use the airport just for convenience sake. But that said, I do think the further out you go, the cheaper those routes are. But I just don't see, and then perhaps what we can do, and that goes back to Councilman Johnson's concern, perhaps we could look at some different types of methodology. We use this one for this particular comparison, maybe go 30 days out and see what those would look like. And I think that might give us a better picture, because I know a lot of people do look about 30 days out. And I can ask Mike to step up here, he might be able to answer that specifically. All right.
Good, Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to give kudos to the staff. We asked for this data. They presented it to us. I believe it's factual data. Every one of us traveled. And we all have our individual experiences. I've traveled 4 times in the last 3 months. I'm traveling 3 more times in the next 4 months. And I am always booked cheaper out of the fleet than I have. And one of them was a day before my mom's funeral. And I still got a cheaper flight out of Killeen than I did going anywhere else. I think the facts are shown and proven here. I question somebody else. I'm not gonna question the airport staff. I'm gonna question the individuals. You come back and show your data that shows that it's not 7 out of 14 United, it's not 5 out of 14 American, and it's not 10 out of 12 Southwest. Show your data that says the citizens can do it. I believe it's totally incumbent on this body to join behind the city, join behind the airport staff. And it's up to us to go to our constituents. They voted us. It's up to us to go to them, and we promote our airport. We are ambassadors of the city. That's our role, that's our job. Establish policies and promote the city. I will not be derelict in my duties to perform. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I'll just say, I was not applying any foot imagination that these aren't accurate numbers. I do believe these are accurate from the time that they check these airfares. What I was saying is, I think if we go further out, perhaps we'll see some different airfare results. I don't know that for a fact, but I think that's what I was referring to. I do believe the information provided to council is pretty correct.
I think there's other factors that play into this, it's not just money. Connectivity is big. And, Austin plays a slight role, not as important because, where I grew up, we had Midway and O'Hare. And then you got Dulles and Reagan's. They're probably closer to each other than we are here. And so it's based on the growth of the area, because you go to Midway and it is jam-packed. And O'Hare, used to be one of the busiest airports, no longer, but, you got them just side by side. And there's other cities that are like that. So when people look for flights, one of the things, they look for is that connectivity. If I'm flying to Austin, in Austin, I'm going to Florida, and Austin is gonna stop at Atlanta before it gets to Florida, whereas, from Killeen, I'm going to Killeen to Dallas, and it's going directly to Florida where I'm going. That's the way I'm going. Why are you gonna take a delay if you gotta drive all the way to get in? But when I talk to people, because I talk to people from Temple and Belton, and they say, well, it was a direct flight. That's why I took it to DC when I was in DC. And, from here you go to Dallas. And then they said if it was direct, if I had to stop going to Dallas, to DC, then I would have gone to Killeen. Because, might as well stop in Dallas. But since Austin had that direct flight, that's what they wanted. So even though it probably costs more than Killeen. So there's other factors, other factors, delays, and luggage, and all that comes into play. So, it's a combination of many. But there's just, like Mr. Johnson said, you gotta figure out not just how to market it, but come up with something different. Because I'm sure that if we had a direct flight for somewhere that Austin doesn't go, as far as connectivity, they would probably come here. Because it's like, if I go to Austin, ride that, and then you gotta wait at a hub somewhere versus go to Killeen and it's a direct flight where I wanna go. So I think that's probably the number one thing that people look for, is that connectivity, because they don't have to delay it. Mr. Rivera.
We have a point, Mr. Mayor, because we have to do something to attract people. Those, couples call, people come fly out of Korea. And that's what they do. When I drive that I have to do, by the time I get back, when I right away from home, sometimes I pay a little bit more just to fly out of here. It's comfortable, so it's home. But it's strange that not too long ago I had a flight, without mentioning your names, but leaders from this community, when we got we were the same plane. They were going, not to Killeen, they were going to Austin. And I was coming to Killeen. It's something about the rate of flight people look into it more than anything else.
Maybe that's an idea. It's like, okay, well, let's just have a flight from Killeen to Austin.
That was home. That was home.
There you go. Make money, like, instead of driving, you can just fly there.
And the idea of this data like this is, we come in contact with our citizens, and that's what they say. They say a couple of things about direct flight and what you do. If we got something like this, we can show them, they can see it. When we get some more people fly.
Mr. McKee.
I think the other thing that lots of people don't factor in that I think is important is you gotta put a value on your time. And, the hour plus over to Austin with toll roads in both directions, unless you wanna get the, I-35 congestion all the way to 71 and go out to the Austin airport. To me, that's the biggest hassle of all, just to wait for a long TSA run. So, those are some things that flying out of Killeen, it's the only place I fly out of. Again, because of the value of the time, I can get a good half a day of work in before I fly out. If I was flying out of Austin, I'd lose that because of just all the stuff to factor in. So those are all the things that matter. I'd like to see direct flights here in Washington D.C. Fort Hood here, it's hard to believe they can't generate enough to do that. It's a lot back and forth from Fort Hood and D.C. Again, that's airline marketing, and that could be that may be something totally different.
And the airport does have on their website, a calculator that you can actually calculate what you just talked about, time and all that, we can see whether, when we fly to clean, it's actually cheaper. So Mr. Harris.
That's why we, that's why we're gonna suggest, I agree, Councilman Mencken, that maybe we should look at where most of the people fly out to as far as their destination flights. Because like I said, I used to travel to South Carolina all the time, and a lot of people travel to South Carolina. They flew out of Killeen, I'm not sure how many, of them originally flew out of South Carolina as one of those destination flights. And maybe we should look at what the destination flights are and see if we get any direct flights to them, because Carolina's not too far. You factor in Dallas, South Carolina, or Denver, South Carolina, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. But anyway, even in the end, and with all the solutions that we're coming up with and so forth, and all the suggestions we're giving, so in the end, it's just a matter of we gotta fix it. And we just have to fix it. So all the things being said are valid, good points being made and so forth, but in the end, it just has to be fixed.
This is funny.
I just have a couple of questions. What we're looking at is the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good thing is that we have an airport. We're gonna have to support the airport one way or the other. The bad part is that the planes are not flying where we wish and want them to go. So that's the bad thing about it. And the ugly part is that we're gonna have, whatever decision that this council made is gonna be ugly. We're gonna feel like we did do the right thing or we didn't do the right thing. So it's gonna be ugly whichever way we go. Some people's gonna vote for it, some's not gonna vote for the exemptions. But one other question I would like to throw out there, Chief, do you know 20 years ago, did they have a plan for the airport, how it would go? Because I heard some difficult things about that when the airport was first put into play. There was no planning for that airport. There was no plans, yes, sir.
My understanding was, when I can recall it, there was, I can ask Mike to come up and ask him, Mike, do you have any specifics to that? But yes, I believe it was a plan.
It was because.
And they were even projecting out, what types of, results they were gonna have.
Right. Right.
They wouldn't have had that without a plan.
Right, because we were in a meeting one day, so we talked to Mr. Olson about this. And we were asking, what plans was put in play 20 years ago? Because I know some of the things that they wanted the surrounding areas to partnership with Killeen. And think of it now, take yourself back 20 years ago. If we had partnership with the surrounding areas, where would we be now? Just think about it.
And Mike can weigh in, but I believe that we did have support from the region in order to get that.
So,
Mike can
Yes,
probably-
yes, ma'am, let me address that a little bit. Obviously, I wasn't here back then, but with the research I've done and documents we have, starting in about 1998, there was a feasibility study, there was a determination made that Skylark was too small and we needed to increase the length of the runways. I believe it was in 1998 when this process started. We hired a consultant to come in and do a feasibility study. That feasibility study documented the fact that we needed longer runways, but because of the roads, 190 on one end and 24 Martin Luther King, whatever it is on the other end, it wasn't economically feasible because it was going to take a road relocation to do it. And then, so beginning in 1998, there was a series of meetings done. That was the only option available at the time because there was a congressional law that stated that joint use at Robert Gray was prohibited. So, but about that same time, then the airlines began to let us know that if they were going to be transitioning in the next 5 to 7 years from turboprops to jets, and if we didn't do something, then they would have to move service out of the plane. So then about that time, Fort Hood decided that they would be open to joint use if we could get the federal restrictions started or lifted. At that point, the local city government began to work with their federal, state, and local representatives. Chet Edwards was the main man. They put together what I have been told was a blue ribbon committee that involved council members, county commissioners, mayors from 23 different communities and governmental bodies around here who all signed resolutions that went to their representatives.
And you've heard it takes an act of Congress to do something, but it actually took an act of Congress to build that airport. I believe it was, I'm gonna get my dates wrong, but at any rate, I believe it was 1999 or 2000. President signed a resolution lifting the restrictions. At that point, they would begin to do a feasibility study of Robert Gray Army Airfield and Killeen Fort Hood Regional Airport as a joint use. And so, yes, that was a long answer to a short question. But yes, there was plenty of planning done way back 20 years ago, 1998.
Right, but the only thing that was bothering me is that we got Waco Airport, and we got another airport about 20 miles from here. I mean, if all those people had joined us, we could have had just one big international airport here. You see what I'm saying? That's what I was wishing.
Everybody
Thank you, I think that's good for us too, but I'm just asking because I've been told so many things. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Nash King.
Thank you.
Good, ma'am, how are you?
Airport directors have to say on what flights here and come and discuss what on the table, and if not, who makes those decisions?
No, ma'am, the airport director has no, I won't say no input, but that's a business decision based on each airline. We can make some recommendations, and Mr. Van Valkenburg, as mentioned earlier, he does go to the headquarters of these airlines, sometimes quarterly. He sits down, he meets with the folks, he takes our air service development consultants with them. We take the data, we take business cases for different routes. He's very active in doing that, but at the end of the day, we can't tell an airline where to fly or what flights we want. They make that based purely on a business decision.
Follow up on that question, like, we talking about Washington DC. We do go to Washington DC a lot. Can that be thought of with the regional government or centralized?
Well, it's all right, I'll address a comment that was made earlier. The document that you just looked at that had our 14 markets, that is, we do a air service demand study. Those 14 markets that you're looking at there, that is our 14 top destinations. In other words, when people leave Killeen, we know where they end up. And those destinations you have, that's the top 14 places where people end up when they leave Killeen. And to answer your question, ma'am, that is, when we take our consultant, we take it for pharma, we take a business case, we take all the numbers with them. And Mr. Van Valkenburg, through the years, has presented several cases of direct flight to Washington DC, was one of them. We're currently focusing on Denver because we think a route to the west would be beneficial. However, there again, all we can do is put the numbers in front of them, make the best case we can, but I will tell you that Mr. Van Valkenburg and the airport staff as a whole is very active in trying to do some of the very same things that you guys have been talking about. It's just, you can lead a horse to water, you just can't make it drink.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rivera.
I just have a couple things, not only, health, but you understand more with this, I was part of it, when I said there was, there's also the China Hotel. That was one of the biggest risks that came into our city, due to the fact that the airport was going to be open right in Killeen. So China had a big deal, and the community service also was trying to be built, and according to whatever growth was growing in during that time. And that was a big issue, Mr. Mayor. But one thing that we keep on talking about fair, most of the time we talk about fair about us, but we have a family who has 3 or 4 in their family, and they save $75 a pop. That's quite a bit for those families. And maybe sometimes that's why they travel all the way down to our state. And then again, according to this. But in 2000, the airport had 3 destinations in 2006, or 2. They had Las Vegas, and they had Atlanta, until they were taken away, and they were taken away. We did have those destinations, and those, one of Vegas, they were packed going up there. I recall going up there almost every other 3 months. My wife didn't like that much, that's real. But we had a great time hooking up straight to Vega from here to there. And at that time, we also started talking, and because a lot of people forget about John Sutton, who was here before. And I don't know if you recall the name, but he tried very hard to keep,
Sadly, the majority of the people here in Killeen, Texas can't afford to fly out as often as all our city council members. Majority of our city council members have no clue what it's like to actually have to live on a household budget. To them, they can just wave a wand and fly here, fly there. And sadly, Killeen has a poverty problem with a poverty
That's one of the things that Caroline's look at a lot. Is
people don't fly. It's just simple, you can't afford to fly.
Consistently, if the load factors get down to a certain percentage, you want to keep your airlines, if you want to be safe, you've got to keep those load factors up in the high 70s and 80s. They like flying those airplanes full. And, that's the thing, when the seats start getting empty, that's when they start getting.
You can't keep the seats filled if there's nobody with money to fill them. And sadly, the majority of those officers that were on board aren't spending as much money as they used to.
But, things are starting to look up, at least this summer, because of the number of flights and the number of planes.
I noticed I mentioned it last time, but I think that they added bigger airlines, because
Americans added a bigger aircraft.
go back now, they have first class.
Yeah, they've added, they've gone from the 45-seat aircraft up to 72-seat aircraft on most of the flights. I think there's a couple of them, they still use the smaller one, but on their prime flights, the morning flights out, and the ones that historically are full, they've brought in bigger aircraft.
And that's the demand. I mean, as the city grows, the airport's gonna grow with it. When things slow down, and those are things you really can't control. And we've had some high peaks, when we had like 50,000 soldiers. Now, we're at 36, our population continues to grow, and that's helping, but it's driven by that. It's driven by just like housing. It's driven by the population.
Apartment complexes are growing.
Over time, I think we're gonna see that airport grow, because as long as the city continues to grow, over time that airport will grow.
We fully believe that, and of course, we're doing everything we can.
Honestly, I can't wait for the census
I think the biggest factor is the airfares, and we unfortunately have no control over that.
All right, anything else? Mr. Johnson?
So, place I can access those documents to get a little bit of a better understanding of the original concept and blueprint.
You talking about the original?
Yeah, this original.
First set up? We've got access to them.
Because Councilwoman was correct, I wasn't at meeting where we asked the city manager, what's the original plan? And it was, I didn't know, just for me to get a better understanding. Because if the airport was meant to be in red.
Because I don't know what the performance measures were established early on, but if because of the volume of documents, because if this was a major project, would it be all right if we just go ahead and get them set up for you, and you all just come by the airport and then give you individual race line?
Again, it's not to beat up staff at
Yes,
all.
we make that happen.
It's not to beat up staff at all, it's just me getting a better understanding what was the original concept. It was meant to be an enterprise fund that would be in the black because of these certain amount of flyouts or whatever case. And okay, if it was meant to be in the red for 20 years and then go into the black, then I'm hoping that document would.
Yes, we have a master plan study or a feasibility study that addresses, I think, some of the questions you're asking. And it may take us a few days to put it together, but we'll begin working on that and get it to you.
You can look even on the articles by the Herald, when they first opened up, you go back to the history of it, and it says airport new record as far as flights, so it's gone up, it just goes up and down, so initially.
But we're asking at the original plans that was made when the airport first developed, it's what, the whole dwelling and the whole land yards, what was the original plan? We had asked Mr. Olson that in the meeting, and so he was supposed to get back with us We never got back with us on that. That's why I'm referring to. We just want to see that. See what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am, I can make that happen.
Thank
Get
you.
that.
And last year, I forgot to mention this, but I know that as part of the economic development stuff, we were doing a market, we hired a marketing company. I know we gave them like $90,000 for EDC. I don't know, maybe we just need to give an update on that. But they were supposed to help with the marketing and come up with, I know there was even talk that sometimes it could be even the name of the airport. And it's like, when people look at Fort Hood, they think military. And it's not, so things like that, they were supposed to look at. I know that we approved that through KDC last year.
Yeah, I was at the meeting. I think that what we'll probably need is an update on the results of that, what's been implemented since that study was done, and we'll start working on that. Going back to the financial, there's a lot of contributing factors to where we're at today, and I don't think anybody can best blame. I think everybody had good intentions. Exemptions, we talked about those parking, they've been around for a decade and a half. I don't know the exact date, was it 2004, right, when they first?
I believe it started in 1999.
Maybe 99. They've had these, and all those have an impact, fiscally speaking. What has changed though is we've added that year, or not every year, but every so long when we add those exemptions, it creates a draw on those revenues that have to be made up somewhere else. And there was a time where the fund balance was strong enough to handle that for a while, but now we're doing other projects, we're trying to expand our service delivery, we're building a hangar. These things, you also depend on the fund balance. So taken in totality, I think that there just comes a time when we just need to make sure that we all understand what council's wish is. Subsidies are okay or they're not okay. If they are okay, it's for the purpose of, we're talking about the exemptions specifically, then as long as that's the direction council gives, the city manager fine. If you don't want subsidies, you don't want those exemptions, then we'll obviously come back with that supporting documentation so you all can make a decision to do away with them. But I didn't want to leave the impression that I don't think any one person or any one council or any one staff member, I don't think there's a blame game here. I think it's just how we've evolved over the years. And there's a time when we need to look at our finances and see what's the path forward that you all are comfortable with.
Mr. Harris.
Just out of curiosity, what I did was I just kind of went in and I did a few calculations. I put some dates for flights to Killeen, Austin, and DFW to South Carolina. And from the calculation, what I did in Austin, DFW costs more. Put in 2 days, DFW costs more than us. And if they're direct flight, they cost over $20 more than us. And then there's 507 for.
Go back through the briefing and I'm basically just here try to attempt to answer any questions you have. And if I can't answer them, then I'll get you the answers that you have any questions.
Mr. Kilpatrick. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I saw one thing that had not been presented that we asked for, and that's of the 23 exemptions. We're going to break out of those that would show us exactly for the DVs, how much of that $300,000 is from DVs, how much is from Pearl Harbor survivor, how many is it from an MSM as opposed to an air medal as opposed to a Legion of Merit.
We reached out to our parking lot manager, and their software does not track it individually like that. But what we have done, we've taken, since this, over the last 6 weeks, we've taken 3 weeks at a time, and we've manually done some counts. And we've consistently, and the last one was just done, I believe, June 18th through the 24th. And consistently, we've come up with 77 to 79%. All 3 weeks was DVs. For example, the last one we did last week was, I think it was 245 total, and 199 of those were DVs. And the other 46 were a various mixture of the other methods mentioned. So while we don't have it broken down the way you've asked for it yet, we have taken 3 different snapshots a week at a time just to kind of get a benchmark And that's what we've come up with, somewhere between 77 and 79% consistently.
Once again, if the churches played their fair share, we wouldn't be sitting here blaming the disabled veterans for the problem.
We're working with Republic Parking to see if we can get that on a more regular basis, but their software doesn't really allow them to track it that way right now. They're having to do a manual hand count. And they enforce, like I said, 3 different times a week at a time. That's what we have at this point.
And that's probably consistent with our community, because you can drive anywhere and you see a lot of DVs. Anybody else? Anybody else got any ideas, comments, questions? All right. Thank you, Mr.
Make the
Wilson.
churches pay their fair share.
DS 18-058, discuss capital improvement project plan. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what we'll do initially, I know not everyone was here last time, I'll run through this presentation, we'll go through the overview of what's in this plan. And what we'll be looking for at the conclusion of this presentation is just some general feedback, questions, thoughts on this plan so that we can start to assemble what we'll call our final draft of the plan to be presented to you for adoption. So just briefly, a little bit of background. It's a 5-year plan that's required by city charter. And this does help to comply with our capital projects policies that were adopted back in April of this year. Using those policies, city charter, utility master plans, and city council feedback and citizen feedback, staff has prepared this preliminary 5-year CIP plan. A couple of definitions we'll touch on here that we'll start to use and we're going to try to be a little more consistent with as we move forward. One is a capital improvement project. That capital improvement project is intended to mean project in excess of $100,000. That's a capital project. And specifically, when you say capital improvement project, we're trying to indicate that this is an expansion or a new project. Adding a lane to a roadway or adding an expansion, a new square footage onto a building or other facility. Capital maintenance project would be the same type of definition with the distinction that a maintenance project is to rehab or repair an existing facility. No new lanes, no new rooms, simply remodeling what's already there. And then the final piece is capital equipment. Same kind of lines, except that we're talking about equipment such as vehicles, tools, or other similar items that may need to be purchased. What you see here are the 6 categories that we have in our fiscal year 19 plan. There are 2 other categories that are listed in the plan for future use. That is your information technology piece and then a vehicles and equipment. We're not quite there. We didn't want to bite off more than we could chew, and those items are going to be contained in your operating budget. This year, as we transition to future years, we would intend to see those spaces filled alongside these project types. We talk about funding, we're looking at fund balance. Some examples there, that could be just your general fund dollars, or it could be any one of our recently established capital projects funds. Those are termed in the document as a CIP fund. We'll have a governmental CIP, that's your general fund capital dollars, aviation, drainage, solid waste, et cetera. Those are all from fund balance, and that fund balance is being used towards capital projects. You'll see grants and reimbursements used commonly, and then bonds we broke into basically 3 types of bonds. Governmental bonds include those necessary for roadways, parks, and facilities. Those are typically general obligation bonds that have been voted on by citizens. It could be certificate of obligation bonds as well that were issued by council. Then you see drainage bond and water and sewer bonds. Those are related directly to a utility, so we designate those as a different type of bond. They have a little bit more specific use. What you see here is a pie chart that shows your projects by type. It's laid out. You'll note that water and sewer has the largest dollar figure here, and as we move to our projects by funding source, water and sewer funding sources are also the largest source of funding dollars. Which is good. The next several slides just breaks out generally the project name and funding source for the project as we go through each of the funds. Aviation had a total of 4 projects. As we move into facilities, there's 2 projects there, and should you adopt the city council chambers remodel, we will likely be adding a 3rd project into that, as we'll be adding a new project for fiscal year 19 with funds that are encumbered in fiscal year 18. And you'll note there that we also have the Gilmore Senior Center shown. As you move into Parks and Recreation, we have 2 trail projects that are ongoing. Those are currently under construction and they're anticipated to complete in fiscal year 19. A large portion of those projects are covered by grant funds. Those are federal and state grants that are tied to the construction of those projects. Moving into environmental services, these are what you would commonly term your drainage projects. We have 4 that are listed here in our planning figures. You'll note that the top piece there, that drainage master plan, does not actually have any funding in fiscal year 19. But we did show it just so that for planning purposes, you can start to see how this may lay out over the course of the next 5 years. Those dollar figures that are shown in blue there, those are not current bonds that we hold. That is a future discussion topic. By no means does any adoption of this plan commit you to adopt any future bond. However, we do want you to be aware of the fact that we are going to be expending all remaining bond dollars in drainage, and that at some point we will have to have that discussion surrounding drainage bonds. Moving into streets and traffic, we have 3 projects that are ongoing currently. You see the Tremere Road, we still have some payout that we think will likely spill into the fiscal year 19. Construction is complete, but we don't foresee the final check being cut on that project until fiscal year 19. Rosewood Drive extension is ongoing currently, and again, we anticipate that will complete in 19. And we are in the process of finalizing construction drawings for a downtown streetscaping phase 2, a modified portion of that that will reconstruct a few sidewalks in front of the Solix development along Avenue D, both sides of the road from 8th to 10th Street. This is a fairly minor project, but it's required as part of an agreement that we have historically when Solix first built. Water and sewer, again, has the largest number of projects and the largest funding source for fiscal year 19, and likely is probably our most healthy fund as we look through this. The bulk of this is water and sewer bond dollars, is the 2013 water and sewer bond. And we do anticipate again that we will expend all remaining funds in that 2013 water and sewer bond within fiscal year 19. That is, I would like to point out that that is relatively normal when we issue a bond. So a 2013 water and sewer bond, typically the goal would be to expend those bond dollars within 3 years of issuance. So we would typically shoot for a 2013 bond to be completely expended by 2016. This one went on a couple of years beyond that. But we are completing right now our water and sewer master plan that you will see for discussion during fiscal year 19. And tied to that naturally comes the funding source that goes with that. And again, here you see items highlighted in blue are those that would require a future bond issuance. But again, nothing is set in stone by the adoption of this plan. When we look at our long-range unfunded projects, our current list is 140 projects, and these are just those that we have been made aware of by citizens. These are those that we have noted and added to the list. There are also those that are identified in various master plans. We've made an attempt to try to prioritize these based on those master plans, the feedback we've received, and the risk that any project may pose to general safety. So we typically try to give anything that is a safety issue a very high priority. And there are approximately $881 million worth of unfunded projects. It's important to note though that this is a long planning window. This doesn't mean that we have $881 million worth of projects that need to happen today. But as you look out over the course of about 25 to 30 years, there's about $881 million worth of projects identified today. So this spills over our next steps here. What we need to start talking about is one, the projects that have been listed in the plan. If you have any questions surrounding why they're there or what funding sources may be there, then we need to talk about those projects. Second piece we need to discuss is the priority for unfunded projects. If we have something that really needs to bump up or down, we can do so. All that we ask is that you keep in mind that it does require a long-term commitment to bring those projects to fruition, so that as we start to look at prioritizing these, it makes it difficult for us as a staff if we start to bump up and down year to year. So we like to try to maintain that long-term commitment to projects. And with that, I think we open it up for questions and we can start to discuss.
You know, when you say it's like 881,000 million, and you spread that out, even long-term, 25 years, that's about 35 million a year. That's a lot of money. And then, you know, even if you were to spread it out 30 years, you're still looking at about 30 million that we need to start looking at. So even though he says long-term, I think it's an immediate problem, because the longer you keep that out of the road, the bigger that problem becomes. Because right now, wide it out, it's about 35 million a year. It's truly rare.
Just got a small question. David, unfunding out of the house for the projects, are there any one of them being considered by Cape County?
Yes, there are actually several, and if you'll note in the comments bar in your plan, we do have a place where we may have marked that they're being considered as a decision package, or if they're marked with a K-Tempo number, that means that they are in K-Tempo's queue to be funded at some point down the line.
I just wanted to bring it out to show that we also got funding from other sources besides marketing.
It's fairness.
See, two questions. First one, when you said you had, I guess, talk with citizens, were those stakeholders or were those citizens in general? What are you talking about that?
I receive about 50 to 60 emails a day, and of that, some are feedback that I receive from city council members that have talked to citizens. Others are citizens that email me directly, getting my email off the website. Most of the members of my staff get those same types of emails, so the bulk of what we have from citizen feedback is direct contact from citizens.
And second question, just getting my mind.
I want to see those emails.
You're talking about the pre-existing projects that we have right now, Rosewood, for example. I know we started from there a while back.
Right.
But I remember you saying earlier that, you know, I remember I asked about Watercrest, and you talked about the bang for the buck, and, you know, Watercrest, even though it's the priority red, it may not be done right away to get more stuff done in the city. I guess I'll ask the question just so I can understand, in case somebody asks me the same question. If they say, well, wasn't this type of town more important than Rosewood? How do we determine, because that's a bang for the buck as well. We get that a lot with what we're doing Rosewood, what we're doing Rosewood with, but what can I tell people if they ask that question? Well, why Rosewood, not the smaller things from the city and so forth?
Correct.
They won't do Watercrest.
Got you. It is a complicated answer. There are a few things that go into it, though. One of the primary reasons that Rosewood received the funding it did when it did, this is a project that has been in planning for better than 10 years now. So it's something that has been talked about and has been pushed for a long period of time. It does take a significant amount of time to move a project up in that priority for a federal funding source. So then we look at it from that perspective as well. When you have a federal government grant or a state grant that's willing to pay for 80% of the construction cost, obviously obviously that starts to escalate the priority for funding on some of those as well. What we try to look at as well with a road like Watercress is that, is there a threat of that roadway getting significantly worse at this point, or can we do some interim measures to make it safe to drive on while we build the proper funding source to rehab it correctly? And what we're seeing right now with Watercress is that it's not actively getting worse. That doesn't mean it's not but it's not actually getting worse. So we can stabilize the things that start that pose a risk to safety, and then pursue an adequate funding source to rehab it.
Because I remember that was a very contentious debate over Rosewood. And then the other question I'll ask as you were talking, when it comes to grants, and I ask this question because, like I say, that people may ask me, but it comes to my mind, and I know it's a question I ask, a question that people ask as well. But when it comes to grants, I guess we can ask the question come up: what prioritizes, or what priority causes you to be more aggressive in trying to find a grant for one road than another road, or one part of the city than another part of the city?
So a lot of that goes into, I'll speak directly to our hike and bike trail and roadway grants, because those are probably the largest grants we receive. Typically, what we do, we submit north of 100 projects to KTEMPO. And through their scoring system, those projects are ranked not only by City of Killeen, but it's a regional group. You know, this funding is regional. The KTEMPO consists of Bell County, Coryell County, part of Lampasas County. So the group is relatively large, and as a regional group, there are scoring criteria that make those projects move up or down. So as a staff, we do a write-up on 100+ projects. Those projects are scored, and where they rank for the benefit of the region, including Killeen, that's how they fall into a priority list for federal funding.
So is KTEMPO, as far as roads are concerned, is that our primary source for grants, or are there other sources, or?
There are other sources there, but they pale in comparison to the size of the grants that are offered by KTEMPO. We do have some statewide funding grants. For example, our Heritage Oak Segment 4 project was a statewide grant. That means that TxDOT basically is paying for it rather than FHWA is the federal side of the house. But the scoring criteria are typically the same as what you would see for a KTEMPO project. What we typically do is look to see a project that scored well for KTEMPO is likely to score well for a statewide grant. Other than that, we do occasionally see grants for drainage projects. We occasionally see grants for the aviation department has many grants that do a pretty good job of managing. But typically, it's the same type of thing. You have to show a regional benefit in those chances to really make those projects score.
I had just got an email earlier today, and it's like a pre-construction meeting for the 195. You know what that is?
Yes, that's actually a TxDOT project that you will recall about a year ago, probably. They built all of 195 south of I-14. They're doing the same thing on I-14 north to Red City.
So it's going to be. So they have anybody on pre-construction meeting, so I want to learn about that. Get ready to answer all those questions. All right, anything else? Any other, Mr. Kilpatrick, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed that the facilities, everything stops out basically for 2019. There's not even a planned action for a city hall.
We, with the facilities plan, if I recall correctly, what we have available to us is about a 5 to 10 year plan for facilities. We talked about deferred building maintenance in the past and how we have some issues with catch up with there. So we don't have an active adopted master plan for facilities, so some of this is staff level input, so the projection is probably not as long range as what we would like to see there.
Next question is on water and sewer. Dan Morgan's. I noticed that at the septic tank phase 11 ends out at 2020. Will that complete everything that we have within our internal boundaries now? But we don't anticipate an annexation of any nature out in 22, 23, 24 to the south.
We have currently identified through step phase 11, general locations. You can very likely expect that you will see step phase 12, 13, 14, 15. It will be an ongoing project. What we're not certain about right now is the time spacing between those. We're starting to catch up right now. That doesn't mean that there's not places to go still, but what it does indicate is that some places, maybe it's not economically feasible for us to put in a sewer line because we may only get one connection. And if you only get one connection, then it makes it very difficult to maintain that sewer line because it just doesn't get that flow. So we start to run into those challenges, and I would expect over the course of the next 5 years, we will continue on that. But it will be an ongoing program because as we annex, as we grow, we'll take in more on-site facilities, and we will need to convert those to city facilities.
And that goes along the same line with the water line rehab phase 3. It ends in 2020. And we know that we've got a lot of water lines in the northeast portion of the town. It's gonna have to still be rehabbed in 21, 22, 23. Not finished.
Right.
So will we see a phase 4, 5, 6, and 7?
Most definitely. You know, part of what we're seeing too with our water and sewer projects is that we're running up against the backside of a master plan. We're currently in the planning phase for a new master plan. So what you're seeing is that we're operating off of older data. So we're a little hesitant to project out a ways into the future based off of that old data. I would expect that when you see the 2020 plan, you'll have a nice, fresh, new list of projects to look at in water and sewer as well, because we'll have a new adopted master plan.
And therefore, we will probably see that 881 million go up to 950 million.
Possibly.
And by looking at probably 2023, we're looking at somewhere near $1 billion worth of infrastructure. Like planning that you have to, even wiping out 35 million a year, it looks like we're going to grow greater than here.
We're putting how much away right now? And saying, how much are we saving off our budget every year for this? Isn't it that 300,000? That's it. Where it says 35 million is what we need.
We're just basically what we've done is there's basically a couple of projects that go past.
I'm really deep.
I look out the water sewer, there's only one, that's the South Park Supply. It's budgeted for 21, 22, 23. All the other projects are. The same thing goes in streets and traffic, there's nothing out there. Environmental services, 3 of the 4 projects don't go right past 2020.
One result there too is that we currently just don't have an identified funding source. There is.
I know an identified funding source.
If you look at unfunded projects, it's this way in most every city. Your roadway projects will almost always be the largest funded. That's the largest.
I know that there's over $160 some million in stuff that's not being taxed.
water and sewer bounce up occasionally, but for the most part, streets and
That's a
traffic.
lot of tax money there.
To take a toll on funding sources.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Olson.
Thank you.
All right, our last item, it's an RQ item requested by Councilmember Harris, future agenda items, increased notification zone, Mr. Harris.
Jesus, how many more
Yes,
years
sir.
to get?
I believe I submitted a second. This one right here, notification zone, current notification zone right now is 200 feet notification zone, and I wanted to suggest that we discuss, expanding the notification zone to 450 feet. Reason being is because we saw already, we have some citizens who come in who are just outside that small radius, but it has a major impact on their particular area. So I just think it'd be a good idea to discuss this, to give more people and even a wider area of people to be able to participate in these type of discussions and input when it comes to rezoning properties or plastic land or anything like that. And let's see, I wasn't asking, you know, just in general, I guess what would be the negatives of the, I guess I'll ask you, what would be the negatives of expanding the notifications on it? If there isn't, what would be the negatives of expanding that?
From a fiscal standpoint, it'll obviously mail cost that factor in, staff time to do it, but, that would bring back a complete list, but that'll probably give us a first kind of look at it.
Okay, so but as far as I go, that would still be kind of minimum.
And I believe it's been adjusted in years past, so, we can get that information for you as well. But there'll be, you know, postage and then postage, for the staff time to do that, to respond to those.
But that wouldn't be that much.
Anybody else? Johnson.
City manager.